All right. So thank you for everyone that's joined so far. I think we're going to get started with the presentation. Let me just make sure my display currently works. All right, perfect. Firstly, I just once again want to thank you for attending. If you're having any issues seeing my screen or my camera right now, feel free to add that in the chat, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that. You might see the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom bar. If you click on that, that'll give you an opportunity to send us questions as we go through the presentation, and we'll have a short Q&A at the end where we'll go over those questions. Anything that we don't answer then, we can of course follow up later. When you registered, you provided your email contact, and we can definitely reach you that way as well. So with that being said, let's get started with tonight's presentation. My name's Sean Luz. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Framingham. And I am joined here today by Matt Zedick, who is the Sustainability Consultant for the town of Holliston. And I'm also joined by Corey Bullock from New England Ductless, who is our air source heat pump provider. And we're going to be talking about air source heat pumps. We're going to be doing a 101 presentation about air source heat pumps, how they work, some information about their efficiency and the economic benefits they can provide, and the rebates and incentives that are available for them. So let's move on to our next slide. First, just a quick intro to this program overall. If you're not aware, this is the Metrowest Solar and Clean Heat Challenge. And this is a program that has been put together by the communities of Framingham, Ashland, Natick, and Holliston. And we're looking to provide our residents and small businesses with reliable options to go solar or to implement clean heating and cooling technologies like air source heat pumps and geothermal heat pumps. And so at the end of this presentation, or now, if you want to sneak away to the website, which is metrowestcleanenergy.com, you can sign up for a no-cost assessment of your home or your small business for something like air source heat pumps or solar panels for your roof, or ground-mounted solar, or a geothermal heat pump system. So all these technologies, more information about them is available online. Additionally, like I said, you can sign up for an assessment and figure out if they make sense for your home and economically, and really do a deep dive into these systems and get a proposal. And of course, also on the website, you can learn about great events that are going on across the communities, things like open houses, farmers markets, and in addition, webinars like this, informational webinars that can teach you about the technologies and other exciting events that we have planned. So definitely take a look there. And as I mentioned, my name's Sean. If you would like contact information for the rest of the municipal team, you can find it here. We're going to have this video available on the Metrowest Clean Energy website, so you can refer back to it if there's anything that you want to go over, or if you had a question that was answered and you just want to take a look at that again. This will be right on the metrowestcleanenergy.com website. And so with that being said, I don't want to hold off on the presentation. I will turn it over to Corey from New England Ductless, who is going to talk to us tonight about air source heat pumps, how they work, how they can be implemented in your home or business, rebates and incentives, all that great stuff. And so I'll turn it over to Corey.
All right, thank you, Sean. And thank you everyone for attending. Also thank you to Matt and the community of Framingham, Ashland, Holliston, and Natick. This is Air Source Heat Pumps 101. This is kind of our introductory course to how these work, how the technology functions, and what it can do for you. One thing I do want to apologize is my background. I was out busy walking a customer site tonight and did not make it to my office in time. So we're going to do this from the car, and I hope everyone's okay with that. All right. Next slide, Matt, please. Sean, please. All right. So how does AC work? All of you have, most of you probably have window units. Those are kind of what they call an all-in-one system, where you have the compressor and condenser inside of the small unit. So the kind of the business end is hanging in the room, and then the coils and everything are on the outside of the house. These are called a split system, whereas the condensing coil is inside your house, but the actual condenser is outside in the yard or on the side of the house or in a different location. And these are connected by a refrigerant pipe. The window unit, kind of pulls, it works just like, kind of like your refrigerator, kind of pulls warm air from inside of the room and then pushes it out into the outdoors. All right, next slide, Sean, please. And so this is a little bit deeper dive. And the way that I think of it, the heat pump works the same exact technology as what's used in your refrigerator. It just has a reversing valve that can, make it so it's able to do both heating and cooling. Where essentially the unit will scavenge the room for any heat molecules. It'll either push them into your house or push them out of your house. And even in the wintertime, I know it seems counterintuitive, but there are plenty of heat molecules out there that get pushed into the house. If there weren't any heat molecules, it would be a frozen ball at about 2 degrees Kelvin. And none of us would be here talking about this. All right. Go ahead, Sean, please. Does it work well? Short answer, yes. What a lot of people have thought of when they think of heat pumps is the kind of the old school technology up until maybe about 5 to 6 years ago. These stopped working right around 30 degrees Fahrenheit, so they weren't very practical for New England. You'd be able to do a little shoulder season action, but not really much in the dead of winter. About 5 years ago, Mitsubishi actually came up with what they call the hyperheat system, and other manufacturers have gone ahead and essentially copied that, and now they're all actually will work down with 100% efficiency down to about 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and then still maintain about 75 to 80% efficiency all the way down to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, next slide, please. And, so we really don't get to negative 13 in the Boston area, in the Boston metro area. It's been about 50 years since we've gone below negative 9. Negative 12 in 1957 was the last time. Wind chill does not count. Wind chill is only felt by humans or living things. Wind chill does not actually affect our equipment, and it's basically for living things, not for inanimate objects. All right, next slide, please. About snow and ice, I get asked this question often. We will mount our systems slightly off the ground, roughly 16 to 18 inches off the ground, keeps them up out of most meaningful snow. This picture right here, they built a little doghouse over the top there to keep it protected. Definitely not necessary. Nice to have, I guess, but it's really superfluous. These things are meant to be outside in the elements. They're meant to withstand that, and we're going to make sure that they're mounted and installed in a way that's going to withstand this kind of weather environment. All right, next slide, please. All right, so kind of best practices versus window air conditioner, how people use these things is kind of the number and sticking. Say most people at home have your window AC set at either 70 degrees or 72 degrees. And that's really irrelevant with these. You will be able to set these to a temperature, but more importantly is how you feel. These are going to be a different kind of cooling than your window air conditioner, mostly because the window air conditioners you're using have 2 speeds, on and off. It hits the temperature it needs to, shuts itself off. You're just hearing the fan. Temperature starts to rise in the room. The pump kicks back in. You hear the condenser kick in, that loud little thump there, and then it's pulling down pulling the heat out of the room, pulling the temperature down. Well, with that happens is you get a lot of uneven cooling where it kind of modulate, is kind of a wave with the temperature, and what it's also doing is only pulling humidity out while it's actively dropping the temperature. These units will have inverters in them, and they have about 900 speeds. So you put them on a temperature you like, say 72 degrees, just for instance, and you just forget it. And what it's going to do is pull the humidity out of the air as it's running low and slow all day long. And what you're going to find is that you're going to be a lot more comfortable even at maybe 75 degrees. And it's something I recommend to people is to kind of experiment. Where do you like it? Where are you comfortable? You know, where it's too cold, you looking to hang meat in there, or you're just looking to take the humidity out of the air, kind of in there. You do have to clean these air filters every month or so. It's just very easy. You just plop the front lid, pull it down, just like your window air conditioner now. It looks very simple. Wash it, dry it, and put it back in, and then maintain the outside condenser once per year. They're going to clean off the condensing coil, you know, pressure test the lines, make sure that there's no leakage in the refrigerant, and then also, you know, pull any debris or sticks or anything out of there. You know, pour practices. We get a lot of people that kind of get in the old mindset of, okay, I'm leaving the room, I should just completely shut this thing off. That way it's using no energy, haha. Well, these actually will modulate down so low that they're barely using any energy at all, and they're keeping the temperature kind of moderate. And if you do want to make an adjustment, it's a pretty easy move from there. You know, poor practice is not cleaning things. Maybe they're doing it once a year. You know, leaving it automatic. Trust the machine to do it, to do what it's what you want it to do. Put it on automatic. Set the temperature and let it just do what it has to do. All right. Next slide, please. All right. A lot of people who have seen these, I'm guessing most of you have seen these in maybe a restaurant or a hotel room, or maybe you've been overseas where they have these. 80% of the rest of the country is using split type units, and we're about 7%. So I've got a lot of work to do, which is good. You know, some people don't like the look of the wall units. And so we have a lot of different options. We have wall mounted, floor mounted. This actually goes between the joist bays in your ceiling, and then the only part you're going to see is this little grill here. It basically almost becomes invisible. We have these, which are air handlers. They can go up into an unoccupied area, maybe the attic or in your basement, and they push air just down through a grill. Then we have the famous LG picture frame here, but believe it or not, this is actually a mini split ductless unit. And then there's a few different color of wall units. All right, next question, next slide, please, Sean. All right, a lot of questions I get, and part of the reason is, you know, we're doing this is to get people away from fossil fuels. And the big question I get is, should I get rid of my old heating system? It depends. If your boiler is working and is good shape, but you know, it's not bad to have around, it's not hurting your feelings, you know, it's not in the way, anything like that, use it. You know, we recommend these. These can be your heat 90% of the time. Leave your old system in there for those 10%, the super cold days, where maybe these aren't as efficient as your natural gas unit. You know, and use it until it breaks. If it's not, you know, if it's inoperable, or it's, you know, you had your technician at your you know, your oil company out to your house, and they told you, oh yeah, you got another year or so on your boiler, you should get that, you know, taken out. Then it might be a good time to do that. And just kind of a general rule of thumb is, when I have somebody that wants to completely remove their current system, is, you know, should I take my system out? And it's like, you know, it doesn't cost much to take the system out. Maybe, you know, a couple thousand, maybe 2,500, somewhere around there. It's not a whole lot of money. But if for some reason you're not happy with something about the air source heat pump and you want to go back to your current system, it's a lot more expensive to put it back in. Air source heat pumps are a bit different. You're used to having warm spots in your home, radiators next to your couch, you know, baseboard heat, maybe the floor grates. It's a nice, you know, you're feeling that warm air come flying up out of the floor, and it's, you know, comfortable. These won't have that. You won't have the hot spots. You know, kind of the purpose of these is to evenly heat your house, but you don't get those super, you know, cozy, comfy spots the way that you're used to. And it is a bit different. It absolutely will keep you comfortable, and absolutely will keep you warm, but it is different, and it's fairly hard to explain. It's a bit nebulous, but you know, just one of the things that we want people to be aware of. All right, you know, then I get, you know, again, people pushing back on, can this be used? Can this be my primary source of heat? You know, should I be worried about this working in New England? And we think quite the opposite. I want you to be excited about this. This is definitely something that we know is going towards the future. more and more people are adding this in, more and more people are divesting themselves from their fossil fuel systems, and that's what we're looking to do. And we want our clients to be 100% satisfied. We're going to be here to make sure that you're getting the system that you thought you were getting, and it's going to keep you comfortable, make sure your house is properly heated or cooled. All right, next slide, please, Sean. All right, is the air source heat pump better than what I have now? Air source heat pumps are very efficient, but they are most efficient in shoulder seasons. Your greatest savings will, if you have oil, propane, or electric heat, the answer is an unequivocal yes. These are more efficient than that, even in the dead of winter. With oil heat, the crossover point is, I don't know, roughly 20 degrees, maybe 25 degrees, and that's based off a cost of gallon of oil versus a kilowatt hour of electricity. And both those things are moving targets. Who knows what OPEC's going to come out with next month. So can I say this with 100% certainty? Maybe not, but it's going to be more efficient on the whole. The majority of our season is in the shoulder season. You really only think of the very coldest days. Those are the outliers. Those are the ones that kind of stick in your head. But when you look back at a year on a whole, most of the time we're above the temperatures where these are running inefficiently. So, you will notice kind of a seasonal difference in your savings. In the dead of winter, we might, oh, geez, my electric bill was $300 this month. That's a lot more than I've always paid. But, you didn't buy any oil. And so it's kind of it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you look at 1 month by itself, yeah, maybe you didn't make out so good this month. But, the other 9 months a year, you're way ahead, and 2 months a year, you're broke even. We do have an energy calculator that we can send to you. Mitsubishi puts it out. I have very little faith in it, to be honest. And it's basically because there's so many variables. Everybody has, what temperatures do they like? How often are they home? Do you go to the Cape for a month in the summertime? What's the weather going to be like? There's just so many different factors in it. It's really hard to come up with like a return on investment, or what months it's going to be super efficient compared to what you have, and what months it's not. And we just won't quote savings because you just can't. I can't guarantee you anything. I can't say anything with enough certainty where I can, put my name on it and say this is exactly what you're going to get. But what I can guarantee you is it's going to be hyper efficient. It's going to be more efficient on the whole. It's going to be a cleaner source. It's a lot easier to clean the electrical grid than it is to clean every house. And that's really what I'm doing, is trying to get people to house to house clean their systems that they're using to heat and cool their house, get it onto electricity where it's easiest to clean the grid, and we can take care of things in one fell swoop. If you have a high efficiency natural gas system, I'd expect it to be pretty much a wash as far as to operate, or maybe even a tiny bit cheaper than air source heat pumps. It's a discussion we'd have to have. Does it make sense to do this? Have solar changes the numbers completely. We have a great partner in ACE Solar that's also in this program, and Sean can tell you a little bit more about them. But I call solar and heat pumps a match made in heaven, because it's just those two technologies combined. Now you're really saving some money, and you're heating and cooling your house off of sunshine, and what's better than that? All right, next slide there, Sean.
Yeah, Corey, I just realized too, I might have been sharing the wrong screen. So I'm just going to do a quick unshare and make sure that you guys get the full view of the presentation. My apologies on that.
Okay.
There we go. So you should see the current slide in full screen now. So I'll move over.
Please.
Next slide.
All right. So one of the good things about living in Massachusetts is we have aggressive climate goals. The governor, it hasn't been signed officially yet, but it has been bandied about that he's looking to get 1 million heat pump systems in the state by 2030. There was one bill on his desk. It kind of spiked by the I shouldn't get political. It was basically real estate agents found a few things that they didn't like in it, get spiked. It's going to get reworked, and it eventually will get signed, this impetus. And we have aggressive climate goals. We put a lot of money into getting people to do this. There are some heavy rebates on there, especially for people with electric propane or oil heating currently. And there's decent rebates for people with natural gas. You didn't get completely left out on that. Also, through the Mass Save program, there is 0% financing for up to $25,000 in a 7 years. So with 0%, 7 years, 0% fixed. It's not a credit card where they're hoping you're 10 minutes late on the payment and they can back charge you 27%. It's completely interest free. You're paying for it in your electric bill already, so let's use that money. There are income requirements that can get you even higher rebates, and we'd be able to, one by one, on an individual basis, figure out exactly what your system would qualify for and what you would qualify for. And we have an office that will do all the rebates for you. We have 2 people in our office. Their only job is to file rebates and get Mass Save loans done for everybody. And they're experts at it. We do roughly over 200 of these a year, I would say, and we're really good at it and make it super pain-free for you. All right, next slide, please. Oh, hot water heaters. So a lot of people that are pulling their oil out are getting their hot water from their oil boiler. Great, we have a great option for everybody. We do offer heat pump water heaters. It's the exact same technology as the air source heat pump, except you're pulling warm air molecules out of your basement or out of your utility room and pushing it into the water in the tank. They do have electric backup in case it can't happen fast enough, so you're covered. If you take 2 or 3 Diva showers, it's usually covered. There are a few rules that need to be. So it's not for everybody. It won't work for everybody, but it will work for most people. And the project manager that visits your house knows these rules and will be able to talk to you about them, and we can determine if that is a good solution for you. If you have like a laundry room or any place that there's a little bit of extra heat, works beautiful in there. All right, next slide, please. All right, a lot of people I've been running into in town, and this may be you, already have ductwork. If you have an oil burner with zoning, it gets a little tricky, but a lot of times with people that have ductwork, we can convert you over to a heat pump. Use the heat pump for 90% of the year, and then in the very cold of the winter, you'd switch back over to maybe natural gas or whatever you had as well. One of the things we do have to look out for with ductwork is how good is the ductwork? Was it installed in 1950? And it's very leaky. We're kind of putting a Ferrari onto something lesser that kind of ruins the whole experience. But we would take a look at your ductwork currently, see what it looks like. If it looks really good, the unitary system train heat pump might be a very good solution for you. All right, next slide, please. All right, and so what's next is kind of next steps here. It would be I encourage everybody to schedule a visit with one of our project managers. Myself or 2 other guys, Arthur or Brian, will come out to your house. They'll measure up your home, kind of talk to you about your goals, what you want to do, areas that are more important, areas that are less important. Are you looking to cover the whole house? Are you looking to use it for primary heating? We'll measure it up and come up with options for you. We use both Mitsubishi and LG mostly, and we will be able to offer, come up with 2 or 3 different solutions that should be really good fits for you. We also will give you details, rebates, any programs that you will qualify for, and talk to you about the 0% heat loan as well. All right, next slide, Chuck. All right, and I'll open it up for questions.
Great, thank you, Corey. I think what we'll do is, as Corey mentioned, we're gonna just open it up for questions from the chat or the Q&A. Either of those is good. Corey, just one question that I had come in. How do you determine the size of a heat pump system? And I think this is a great question. I think it's obviously going to be different in each application.
Sure.
But is there any kind of general tips or understanding that you might be able to provide?
Yeah, we actually have a way to kind of measure each room, measure glass, measure wall thickness, ceiling heights, get the volume of the room, and then we can do what's called a manual J survey, and that will actually tell us exactly what we need for BTUs in each room. Now, if we're just using for cooling, there's some kind of general rules of thumb, 500 BTUs I'm sorry, 12,000 BTUs for every 500 square feet is just kind of a general rule of thumb. But every house is going to be different, and maybe we have the BTU load covered, but maybe it isn't distributing enough, and so every house is going to be different. And that's why I would encourage people to have a project manager come out and size up your house for you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, another question that came in. Could you talk a little bit more about the maintenance for heat pumps? I know you talked a lot about, it sounds like, cleaning the filter really is one of the most important things you can do on the indoor units.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's through a outside maintenance contract or if it's something the homeowner can do on their own. Can you talk about like maybe how to maintain the outdoor component of the system?
Sure. I definitely wouldn't recommend people do this on their own, because one of the things that we would want to do in that maintenance is actually pressure test the copper tubes that copper pipes between the indoor units and the outdoor unit, and just to make sure that there's no leaks of refrigerant. But essentially once a year we'd recommend, we do it. There's other companies that do it, that would come out, take a look at the, kind of visually inspect everything, clean off the condensing coil. It gets a little bit of a soot built up on it, and it can, affect the efficiency of the unit. We clean that off and then take out any debris or anything. We would check the indoor units, make sure there's no, any visible problems. I don't know if there's any, these will pull, like I said, they pull humidity out of the air, and that water has to go somewhere. So there will be drain tubes that have to run outside, and we'd visually inspect them to make sure that they're not blocked. And if they are, take remediation efforts. It's kind of the 3,500-mile oil change is the way I like to think of it. And, we just get it done once a year, and, it's fairly inexpensive. It depends on how many indoor units you have. And, there's no worries about it.
Awesome. And following up after that, we had another great question come in. I have a high efficiency natural gas heating system with ductwork, but no
Mm-hmm.
central AC. Could it make
Okay.
sense to install a heat pump primarily for cooling in the summer?
It definitely could make sense. There's a couple of things we want to check. We could, put a condensing coil on your let's see here. Yeah, on the furnace itself. We would want to inspect the ductwork to make sure that it was properly insulated, because you can run into problems if you do try to put a cooling unit onto ductwork that is not insulated. You can actually get moisture, kind of the beer can cold, with the condensation on the outside of the can, and it can start dripping. You could potentially get mold issues if there's no insulation on your ductwork.
Awesome. And I think this is a really good one. You talked about how heat pumps operate differently than, traditional heating and cooling systems, where, a lot of people, will turn them off when they're not in use, which is a great practice. But with heat pumps, it's a little bit of a different story. Can you talk about, the role of heat pumps in maintaining space temperatures, as opposed to, leaving it off during the day and then coming back and expecting it to kind of go full blast?
Right, and that's something that, the more you have to change the temperature, the more energy you got to use. So to keep it idling, I'd say even if you say you go to work and you leave your house, and it's a summertime, you leave your house at 78 degrees. When you come home, to bring it to 72 where it's comfortable isn't going to be a big adjustment. But if you shut your heat pumps completely off and it gets up to 85, 90 degrees, that's when they're really working hard. The pumps are really pushing a lot of refrigerant through, because they're pulling as much heat as they can, as quickly as they can. And the fans are blowing the hardest, because it's almost in like a panic mode, trying to get to what you demand of it, because all it wants to do is get to the temperature that you're asking for, and it wants to get there as quickly as possible. So you end up using quite a bit more energy than just letting it sit at a temperature that's just slightly off of where you'd prefer it, but you're just kind of sipping energy during the day when you're not home. I know the thought of spending energy at all, any energy at all while you're gone, feels a little wasteful. But when you think of it on the whole, it's actually, you know, less wasteful than, you know, trying to do a sudden on again, off again. And sometimes it just takes, you know, we've got some applications where if it's a really hot day, if it's 95 degrees out and your house is sized just perfectly, it can take a couple hours for it to actually get to the temperature that you're trying to get it to if you're someone that likes it a little bit colder. And so there's both, you know, comfortability concerns and efficiency concerns when you're shutting them off and then relying on them to really quickly catch up to where you want them to be.
Great.
Explain things okay?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Corey. I think that was great. So we got another great question related to that. So should we turn down the heat if we are on vacation? Same question for AC in the summer.
So yeah, if you're going to be gone for an extended period, yeah, I would say go ahead and turn it off, and then just kind of slowly bring them back up as you're. And the neat thing is almost all of these will have remote functionality where you can, you know, from your phone or your computer or whatever, you know, it's be like, you know, we're coming home from vacation, you can turn them on, you know, a few hours before you even hop on the plane to come home, and kind of, you know, slowly bring it up to the or bring it down to the temperature you wanted at.
Great, thank you. Another really good one, I think, that gets to the point of, you know, existing systems that are installed in homes throughout our communities. Mm-hmm. Could you give an estimate of, or just, I guess, a general idea of what percentage of your jobs use existing ductwork? And maybe just, I guess, provide a little bit more background about that, what that process looks like if you're putting in a heat pump system that uses existing ductwork.
Sure, it's a fairly small percentage. Most of the time, we're either, you know, putting in a ductless system or fresh ductwork. It's not often, maybe, you know, 5 to 10% of 5 to 10% of the time we're using existing ductwork, and, you know, it's really a question of does the existing ductwork adequately serve the space that it's in now? If the answer is yes, then yeah, that might be something that makes sense to look into a little bit further. You have sizing concerns. Are you trying to use it to heat your whole house, whereas before it was only being used for cooling? You could find out that, oh geez, my ductwork didn't cover my whole house as well as I thought it did in the wintertime. And so that'd be something where we definitely go to and do the manual J sizing survey to make sure that we had adequate BTU load available through that ductwork, because you can only push so much air through ductwork that's already existing. To make sure that would adequately service the area that we're in question.
Great. And also, we just had another question come in. Could you talk a little bit about how long these heat pumps are expected to last? I think, you know, just from your presentation, obviously, maintenance is a huge part of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you could just provide some detail about that.
Sure. Everything we install comes with a standard 12-year warranty. Typical life 15 to 20 years. We've got systems that have gone longer, but that would be, you know, the standard. And obviously, yeah, the more you maintain it, the better off it's going to be.
Great. And let's see if we have any others. I know that well, one of the questions I've frequently seen, you know, and I know you had talked a little bit about this in the presentation. You know, people are really concerned during the colder weather. You know, when it starts to get you know, close to zero, you know, that the heat pump is maybe not going to be as reliable. And just, you know, from my experience in our conversations in the past, you know, it's clear that the technology is definitely advanced. Could you kind of you know, get into more detail about, you know, the operating range for these heat pump systems, and you know, maybe things that can be done, whether it's using your existing backup system. I think you brought up a great point about keeping your existing systems if there's, you know, if they're in working condition, and you know, it's otherwise an expensive job to get rid of them.
Right.
You know, if you could provide some more detail about that.
Sure, absolutely. So we're fully confident that these systems, and we're going to size them, that they can handle your house. If you wanted to use this as primary heat, they can handle your house down to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it's pretty expensive to run at that point. And, you know, maybe there's, you know, it's going to cover it. And, you know, if it gets down to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit, that's usually for an hour or something like that. And so by the time the house is starting to cool up, to lose its BTUs, these systems are back able to keep up with what they're doing. You know, what I recommend to people that have a good functioning heat system already, but want to, you know, kind of switch over to these to use most of the time, is you'd actually kind of, you know, use these on the shoulder season, use these as your primary source of heat down to middle of December. You know, in middle of December, flip it over where you turn these on to just be backup, and then you use your heating system, your primary heating system, you know, till mid-March or so, and you can just kind of, you know, you can make the flip by just adjusting the temperature on the thermostats. So each one of our indoor units is going to have its own thermostat, and you're also going to be able to control it from an app, and then your main house thermostat that's connected to your boiler already. So I tell people, you know, turn it down to 50 degrees in the summertime, and the main system, like the, you know, if you have a natural gas boiler or whatever, turn that down to 50 or 60, somewhere, you know, below where it's not going to come on, because our system's going to keep it above that temperature. And then when it gets to the deep of the winter time, flip it, turn your regular boiler up to 68 wherever you like it, and then turn our units down to 60 or so. And then if you're in maybe the kitchen or whatever, and it's a little chilly in here, you can just, you know, pick up the remote, pick up your phone, and turn our system up to 70 or wherever you want it comfortable. And that one unit just is the only thing running at that time, and you're using it as a supplement. Now, people with oil have to, or propane, have to install what's called an integrated controller in order to qualify for the rebates. What the integrated controller does is it actually will talk to your oil or natural gas boiler, and it'll figure out at what temperature it's more efficient to run what technology. So if it's 20, you know, 15 degrees or so, it's going to say, all right, a gallon of oil is cheaper to burn than the amount of kilowatt hours it's going to take to heat the house. So we're going to use the boiler. And then when it gets up to 40 degrees in the daytime, you can be like, nope, heat pumps are more efficient to run, and they'll actually automatically make the switch for you. Well, they'll turn over.
Thank you, Corey. Yep. I think we have a couple more. So I think this is also related to some prior questions, but a great question nonetheless. So we normally turn down the heat at night as it is more comfortable for us. Is it inefficient to turn it down with a heat pump?
No, absolutely not. It's just, you know, you can make small adjustments is not a big deal. You know, a couple of degrees here and there, 10 degrees, 8 degrees, somewhere around there is not a big deal. But really where it becomes inefficient was when you completely turn them off and then, you know, turn them on at a temperature that's, you know, quite a bit different from where the temperature of the room is. If it's, you know, 92 degrees in your room and you tell it you want it to be 70, it's going to work really hard. But if you go to bed and you like it 65 degrees in there, and you've been running it at 70 all day, you know, it's a very small adjustment and not inefficient at all. And it's something I'd actually recommend. You know, keep it as low in the winter time as you're comfortable with, and as warm in the summertime as you're comfortable with, and you're going to save, you know, energy in general.
Yeah, Corey, actually to add on to that, you know, just from our experience in Framingham, we've installed heat pump systems throughout municipal facilities, and I think, you know, that was one of the things that we've seen too. You know, when you try to cut back too much with heat pump systems, you're really not seeing the benefit you might expect, because as you've mentioned, you know, if you have a really hot day coming up and your heat pumps aren't on in the morning to help maintain that temperature, you know, you can really be kind of fighting yourself to try to bring them back up. So they're really most efficient, you know, maintaining an existing temperature, and you know, they're really good at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And one other question. Oh,
one thing
ahead.
I recommend to people, just as an aside, one thing I recommend to people is kind of, you know, play around with it. You know, trial and error. Where do you feel comfortable? Where is it too cold? Where is it too warm? You know, what are your habits as far as, you know, we never upstairs during the daytime, so I'll let it go to 78 degrees, and then a half an hour before bed, I crank it down to 72 where I want to sleep. You know, just kind of, you know, and mess around with it. And you can, the more you want to micromanage it, the more money you can save. And obviously there's a part where it becomes a, you know, is it worth micromanaging to, you know, to save $10 a year on my electric bill? Probably not. But, you know, everybody has their own thresholds of what's worth it to them.
Great. And then one other question I had, and also I would say if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or the question and answer section. The last question I currently have is, so there's a room in my house that's usually like hot or cold, and I think many people might run into this where they have that one or few rooms in their house that maybe they're not served by their regular HVAC system, and it's just hard keeping them comfortable. Would a heat pump system be good in this situation?
Absolutely. We'd install just a simple single zone, a small condenser outside with a single zone unit indoors. It's a great application for this. That's what I run into a lot of people that are like, oh, I already have natural gas furnace with central air. The only thing it doesn't get is my sunroom or my addition we never get the duct work quite right on it, and so we use that to just to bridge the gap almost between the room and the rest of the house.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's currently all we have for questions. If you have any other questions, we'll just give it another 30 seconds. We'd be happy to take those and answer them. If not, if you think of something after the presentation, of course, you can also email us. Yeah, thank you for that, Corey. I think that's a lot of great information, and I think we covered a lot of different topics with air source heat pumps. And actually, just on that, while we wait to see if there's any other questions, could you maybe explain just for those that might be a little confused, because obviously we have two different types of heat pumps in our program. Could you explain just on a general level what the difference is between an air source heat pump and a ground source or geothermal heat pump?
Sure. The ground source, you drill a fairly deep hole into the ground, and it uses the Earth's moderate temperature to either heat or cool a refrigerant that runs deep down into the ground, and then that will modify the temperature of the air in your house. You need central ductwork to do ground source, so it either gets installed at the time of the ground source, or it gets attached into your current ductwork. Whereas the air source, we are using the air, we are using the air to either heat or cool your house, and eventually we're turning your house into a refrigerator, either a warming one or a cooling one.
Great. So yeah, so that's it for questions. We'll move on to the next slide. I think this is yours, Corey.
Yep. Again, I wanted to thank everybody for this, the entire town community of all the four towns: Framingham, Holliston, Ashland, and Natick. Thank you for selecting us. We look forward to servicing the community, and we've already had some really good responses so far. We've already got quite a few people on the board and on the install schedule. I think the first couple of installs are going in next week, and looking forward to servicing everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone who's able to attend tonight. As I said, my name's Sean. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for Framingham, and I'm just one of the sustainability coordinators across the communities that's worked on this program. And so I want to thank all the other sustainability coordinators, Matt Zedek, Jillian Wilson-Martin, and also Frank Nikashian. We worked hard to get it to this point. We're glad to be able to offer a program for residents and small businesses. So if you're interested in air source heat pumps or any of the other technologies offered through the program, please do visit the website, metrowestcleanenergy.com. On there, as I said, you can sign up for a no-cost assessment. You can check out events that are coming up just like this, whether it's informational webinars or vendors of our program attending farmers markets. There's a lot of great resources there. And of course, there's also an email address there. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. But once again, thank you for attending and have a great night. We'll wrap up the webinar here. Thank you.
Thank you.